Anyone knows what is a screw jack? What is a screw jack? Come on, it's a very simple object, right? What is a
Sir,
screw jack?
it is a mechanical device which is used to lift heavy loads.
Yeah, it's a mechanical device used to lift heavy loads, especially the vehicles. Whenever you have to change the tires, if it has got punctured or some other due to some other reason, if you want to change the tires, you'll have to lift the vehicle. And we all know the vehicle weight of the vehicle is very high, and we are not bodybuilders to be able to lift it. Uh, we're not Krish or Superman, right? So this device we use for lifting the those objects. Now the screw jack that I am going to show you here is a very simple one, and it will consist of a vertical rod. Fine. Vertical rod. There will be a head at the top, and this head will have a number of holes. Okay, number of holes, and in one of these holes, we are going to insert a lever. Okay, so this thing here is a lever. This you can say is the head, and this here is the screw. Fine. Now this screw will have a number of threads on itself. This screw will have a number of threads on itself. Fine. So these things, they are threads. Okay. So now these threads, they're going to be fitted into a bottom part. So the bottom part is going to be somewhat like this. Okay. Mm, must have seen in machine drawing, right? This object you must have seen in the machine drawing. So this is the rough shape. I'm just drawing the cross section. There may be another device, another replaceable device in the middle, but the inside of this will have threading. Fine. So this threaded screw is going to fit inside this bottom base. Okay. So whenever we rotate this screw, what will happen? Whenever we rotate the screw, this part will be moving up or down. This part will be moving up or down. So we may have an additional object that is called as this what is it? A crone. Fine. So the crone is the one which will come in contact with the vehicle part, and because the crone is not going to rotate along with the head, it's free to rotate. So that's how the object is going to be lifted. Okay. So we don't have to worry about all this stuff. Fine. So we don't have to worry about all this stuff. Let me just delete it. Let's focus on the thing that we have to study. Fine. So our aim here is to find a relation between the force which we are applying on the lever and uh, and the and the the force we are going to require to be applied on lever, so that the object is lifted. Fine. So that object is lifted. Let me just draw a top view of this. Just draw a top view of this. So in the top view, this is where this is where so, yeah, the top view is where we will see the forces acting. So I want to show you the top view. So this is the lever, the same lever which you are seeing in the front view. Okay. So now the force that we will apply, that force we will be applying here in the top view. Fine. That force we have to apply here in the top view. Fine. So let us say the force that we are applying here is F. So we want to find out this force F that will be required in order to lift this whatever object we are applying here. So the weight of this object, let us call it as W. We can also write it as m into g, where m is the mass of the object that we are lifting, g is the gravitational acceleration. Okay. So W is the mass that we have to lift. These are the threads here. On the lever, F is the force that we are applying. So our aim is to find the formula for F. Our aim is to find the formula for F. Now this we are going to do in various steps. We have to do a derivation. So this is where the derivation starts. Fine. So first of all, what we have to do is we have to open the thread of one pitch. We have to open the thread of one pitch. Okay. So this distance that we have here, this distance is equal to the pitch. What is pitch? What is pitch? Anyone? What is pitch?
The distance between two successive crests.
Two successive
Crest of
threads. Here in this case we have threads. So we'll be talking in terms of threads. Okay. And when we open the one thread of one pitch, what will be this distance? What will be that distance? If this distance here is diameter of the screw, what will be this distance? It's like opening a circle, right? So this will be the circumference. Circumference, what is the formula for circumference? Pi into d, isn't it? Is this understood? Are you clear about this?
yes, sir.
Yeah. So now we'll have to draw the same triangle. Let me draw it slightly bigger here. Just draw it slightly bigger here. Straight up. And yeah. So I've drawn this slightly bigger. Now the screw that we have here, that will be similar to a box that is sliding over this. Okay. So this diagram we have converted it. The diagram we have converted it slightly differently. Okay. So it's the same diagram, but we have shown this screw in the form of this box, and this helical thread, we have opened it for one pitch and we are showing it like this over here. Okay. So this length here is equal to the pitch. This here is the circumference, that is pi d. This angle here I'm going to call it as alpha. Fine. That angle here I'm going to call it as alpha. Now some forces will be acting on this block, right? So what are the forces acting on the block? One force is the downward force. How much is the downward force? Downward force is W or M into G. Fine. Then we are going to apply a horizontal force here. We are going to apply a horizontal force. So where are we going to apply that force and how much it will be? How much is going to be this force? This force will be applied here at the diameter. The force that we are taking here will be applied over here, and we'll be calling it as P. Fine. Let us call that force as P. Okay. So P is the force that will be applied here at the diameter of the screw thread, and W is the weight that is acting downwards. Now as a result of these two, we will get two more forces, two more reactions. Fine. So what is the first reaction we will get? What is the first reaction we will get? First is the normal reaction. First is the normal reaction. So let us write that normal reaction as N. Now the force is moving the object on the right side. So where will the friction act? Where will the friction act?
Opposite to the motion.
Yes. So because the motion is towards the right, friction will act towards the left. And how much this friction will be? Now we are talking about the impending motion. We are talking about the impending motion. And in the previous class, I have explained what is impending motion. Impending motion is the moment when friction is maximum. So when the friction is maximum, what will be the friction?
Limiting friction.
Yeah, so friction will be equal to limiting friction. Friction will be equal to limiting friction. And we know the formula for limiting friction. What is it? It's mu into n, isn't it? Mu into n. Now, let me draw a line. Let me draw a line which is perpendicular to the surface. This line is perpendicular to the surface. Now, can you tell me what is this angle? What will be that angle? It will be same as alpha. Same as alpha. And if I draw a parallel line to the surface, then this angle is also going to be alpha. That angle will also be alpha. Okay. So having drawn this diagram, now we can start doing the derivation. Now we can start doing the derivation. Okay. So let's start the derivation. Take okay. So let's take these two directions, this as x and this as y. Okay. So now first let us take sigma of all the forces in x direction. Fine. So when you take that, p is acting in the direction of x, so it will be positive. And what is the component of p in the direction of x? That will be p cos alpha.
Alpha.
P cos alpha. And because it is in the same direction as x, we are taking it positive. The next, any other forces which are acting in x direction? W is also inclined to the x-axis, so a component of that will also act in that direction. So how much? What is the component? W into sine alpha. W into sine alpha, and that component will be acting opposite to x-axis. Hence, we have to take it as negative. So minus W sine alpha. Fine. And there is one more force, the friction force. Friction force is also acting opposite to x-axis. Hence, we have to take it as negative minus mu n. Fine. Now, we are taking it as impending motion, and impending motion means the object is still not moving. It is about to start moving, but it has not started moving yet. Fine. And because this is the condition we are taking, we have to assume that this is in static equilibrium. This is in static equilibrium. Hence, this total we can take it as equal to 0. This total we can take it as equal to 0. Fine. We just have to focus on this diagram. So I'll just expand this here like this. Okay. So now let us send this term to the other side. So we get P cos alpha minus W sine alpha equals mu into n. We will call this as equation number 1. Similarly, we will have to take the sum of all the forces in y direction. Okay. So now you can see n is the force which is acting upwards. So we can take n as positive because it is in the same direction as y. Now the two components we have to take. W into cos alpha is acting downwards opposite to y. So minus W into cos alpha. And P into sine alpha will also act downwards. P into sine alpha will also act downwards. So again, it has to be minus. So minus P sine alpha. So once again, because it is in static equilibrium, the sigma of these forces will also be equal to 0. Now the negative terms, let us shift to the other side. So we get W cos alpha plus P sine alpha equals n. So this we will call it as equation number 2. Now we can substitute equation number 2 in equation number 1. So substitute 2 in 1. So what do we get? We get P cos alpha minus W sine alpha equals mu multiplied with n. So wherever n is there, we'll just substitute this value. That is W cos alpha plus P sine alpha. Okay. Hello, any doubts? Okay. So next we will separate the terms P and W. So P terms I will take it on the left side. W terms I will send to the other side. And when I take P common, I'll be left with cos alpha in the bracket, and this one will become minus W, mu into sine alpha. This will come on the left side, and on the right side, W will come out common. Mu cos alpha will remain here. This term comes on the other side, and again it becomes positive. So it's going to be plus sine alpha. Okay. Now this term here, let's send it to the other side. So we get value of P. So P will be equal to W into mu cos alpha plus sine alpha divided by cos alpha minus mu sine alpha. Okay. Can we simplify this further? Can we simplify this further?
No, sir.
Let's divide by cos alpha in numerator and denominator. Numerator and denominator both we will divide it by cos alpha. So what will happen? The P will be equal to W, and cos by cos will cancel. We will be left with just mu. And here sine by cos we will get, what is sine by
Tan.
cos?
Tan.
Tan.
Tan. Very good. Fine. And then coming to bottom also we are dividing by cos alpha. So cos by cos, again it will cancel. We will left with 1 minus mu as it is. Sine by cos, once again we will get tan. Yeah. So this is a simplified version. Now we can simplify this much furthermore. Fine. So let us say theta is angle of friction. If theta is angle of friction, so what is the relation between mu and theta?
Mu equal to tan theta.
Tan theta. Mu equal to tan of theta. And for alpha, how will you find alpha? How will you find alpha? Alpha we can find by using this triangle, right? Alpha we can find using the
Pitch by
triangle. This is pi d and this is pitch, right? So alpha, tan alpha will be equal to opposite, that is pitch, divided by the base, that is pi into d, right? So this is the relation for alpha and this is the relation for theta. So let's go ahead, substitute that. So P equals W, and we'll take it as tan theta plus tan alpha, we will keep it as it is, 1 minus tan theta tan alpha. Now looking at this equation, does it remind you something from the trigonometry? Yeah, this
Tan
is
A
the form. Yes. So this is the expansion of tan A plus B. So we can further simplify this as W into tan of theta plus alpha. Theta plus alpha, right? So now this is a very, very simplified formula. It's very easy to remember. So here one more situation we'll have to assume. Fine. So this is for lifting. This is for lifting. Fine. So if you are lowering it, if you are lowering the screw jack, then how the formula will change? The direction of friction will change, right? The direction of friction will change. So theta is the friction. So we will get alpha minus theta, right? This is for lowering. So combining these two, we can write P formula as W into tan alpha plus or minus theta. Plus or minus theta. So when should we take plus? When should we take minus?
Fall.
Plus we should
While
take for
lifting.
rising or lifting. Plus should be taken for lifting and minus should be taken for lowering. Okay. Now we know the relation between these two things. What are the two things? P and W. But we don't want P now. We want F, because we are not applying the force at the diameter of the screw. We are applying the force at the edge of lever. So we'll have to find the relation between P and F. Fine. So what is the relation between P and F? What is the relation between P and F? This is the simple moment theorem we can apply, right? So P into that distance from the center. What is this distance? D by 2, right? And what is this total distance? This total distance, let us assume it as L. Okay. So now we will apply the law of moments here. So P into diameter by 2 will be equal to F into L. Is it correct? Is it correct? So this implies we need the formula for P now. So P will be equal to 2 times F into L over D. Fine. So this formula we will use and we will substitute that in the equation that we just got. Fine. So this equation, so substitute it here. What do we get? 2FL by D equals W tan alpha plus or minus theta. Now we can find the formula for F. Send all the other terms to the other side. So we get WD by 2L into tan alpha plus or minus theta. Right. So this is the final formula which we'll be using if we come across the problems. Fine. If we come across the problems, this is the formula we'll be using. Okay. So is the derivation clear? Any doubts here? So once again, let us note down all the notations. What is W? W is weight to be lifted. W is weight to be lifted. Then D is diameter of screw. Diameter of screw. L, length of lever. Length of lever. What is alpha? What is alpha? Alpha is called helix angle. What is theta?
Angle of friction.
Angle of friction. Any other term is left? Alpha, theta, D, L. Okay, everything is over. Only F. F is the force applied. F is the force applied. Fine. And force applied on the lever. Force applied on lever. P is the force. P is the resultant force, you can say. P is the resultant force on screw. P is the resultant force on the screw. F is the applied force on the lever. P is the resultant force on the screw. So these are the notations we are using, and this here is the formula we'll be using in the problems. Fine. So we'll be doing problems later in our other classes. I'll give you 5 minutes to note this down. Meanwhile, if you have any doubts, you can ask.
So nature of force P is tangential.
Yeah, tangential, of course. This is the front view. Here we have the top view. Any doubts?
Sir, I didn't get this pi d, sir.
Pi d is the circumference formula, no ma? Pi d is the circumference formula, right? Let me show you. So if this is the circle, this is the circle, and if d is the diameter, d is the diameter. So how much will be this total length? That length is equal to circumference, right? What is the formula for circumference?
Pi d only, sir. Yes.
Pi d only, no? Right. Any other doubts? If you have any doubts, please make sure you clear them. Okay? Get all your doubts cleared. If you keep the doubts with you, it will prove very dangerous for you later. So this 5 minutes break that I'm giving you to write down the derivation, it not only works as a time to rest between the class, like a break, but also it gives times for others to think about what they have done, ask doubts if they have any doubts, get them cleared. Done? Okay, so I have shared a screenshot of this on your WhatsApp group. If you're still not done writing, you can write it down later. Let's go for the next topic. Okay, so next we'll have to take up the collar bearing. Okay, the collar bearing. So collar bearing is going to appear like this. Okay, so this is the collar bearing here. So we have a shaft here which is moving inside this hole, and there is a flat surface which is resting on a flat base. Okay, flat surface which is resting on the flat base. So this shaft will be rotating. The shaft will be rotating, and these two surfaces here, they are in contact. The two surfaces here, they are in contact, and at this contact, friction will be acting. So now again, we'll have to use the same formula that we learned yesterday, and we have to do a derivation to find a relation between the torque required to move it and the weight that is acting on this collar. Okay. So let's begin. Collar bearing. So we can start with a circle. Okay, so this is the outer radius and inner radius. So the contact, the surface contact is between these two radii. Okay, so the inner radius, let us take it as r inside, ri, and the outer radius, let us take it as r out, r in and r out. So next we will have to take a small area. Fine, we'll have to assume a small elemental area. Okay, and here this distance from the center, let us take it as r, and the thickness of this small strip, let us take it as dr. Okay, so this area that I'm talking about, the small area dA, which I'm shading right now, is going to be different at different radial distance, right? This area will be different at different radial distance, and as the area changes, the normal reaction will change, and we know the friction is dependent mainly on the normal reaction. So the friction will also change, and the friction will directly affect the torque. Fine, so this is how our derivation will start. So let's begin. Okay, let's start. Okay, so let us begin here. So first let us find this area. Fine, so area of this small strip dA. How to find the area of this small strip? How to find the area of the small strip? We will use a simpler formula. Fine, we will not use the area of larger circle minus area of smaller circle. Fine, we'll use a slightly different approach to this, and that is the circumference 2 pi r into the small thickness dr. Okay, 2 pi r is the circumference of the strip and dr is the thickness. Fine, so what we are doing here is the circle is there, we are like opening the circle, we are opening the circle. So this we are making a cut here, we are cutting at this point and we are opening the circle. So this length will be equal to circumference, length will be equal to circumference, and the thickness will be equal to dr. So this is like a rectangle, no? This is like a rectangle. Circumference is equal to 2 pi r and the thickness is dr. So length into breadth we can use directly here. Fine, and because this thickness is very, very small, it's a differential amount, it will not create any error, it will not create any error in the formula. Fine, so dA is the small area and that's equal to 2 pi r into dr. So I've explained here how it is done. Now let's assume uniform pressure. Fine, so we are assuming that the pressure is uniformly distributed, which means the pressure P is constant. The pressure P is constant. Fine, so now let us find the normal reaction on the strip. The normal reaction on the strip. So we all know the formula for pressure is, what is the formula for pressure? Pressure is force by area, right?
Area.
So here in our case, force is nothing but the normal reaction and area is dA. Fine, so sorry, dN is the small amount of normal reaction, dA is the small amount of area. So dN will be equal to P into dA, isn't it? So P into dA. Now dA formula we know it here. Let us substitute. P into 2 pi r dr. Okay. Now this is the small normal reaction acting on this small strip that we have chosen. Fine. Now this normal reaction will result in a small friction, isn't it? What is the formula for friction?
Mu into n.
Yes, mu into n. So in place of n, we have dn. So let us put dn. Okay. Once again, we know the formula for dn. Let us substitute it. So mu into dn. dn we have to replace it with p into 2 pi r dr. Okay. Now this is the small amount of friction. Now this small amount of friction will result in a small amount of torque. What is the formula for torque? What is the formula for torque?
F into R.
F into r, radial distance. So in our case, F is nothing but the small friction force dF, and radial distance. What is the radial distance? Radial distance
dr
is
plus R.
r, only r. R is enough. Dr is very small, so we can ignore it. Dr is very small, so we can ignore it. Okay. So dF into r is the formula. So now again substitute for dF. What do we get? We get mu into p into 2 pi r into dr into this. Okay. So this is the total formula for the small amount of torque. Now if you want to find the total torque, what you have to do?
Integrate.
You have to integrate. Fine. So integration on both sides, when you do, you will get torque on this side, and constant terms, let us take it out. Mu is constant, 2 pi is constant, and pressure is also constant. We are assuming uniform pressure, so pressure is constant. It will also come out. And what remains inside the integration? R into r, r square dr. And what are the limits for r? What are the limits for r? Minimum limit is r in, maximum limit is r out. Fine. So we'll have to integrate it. So constants as it is, and this becomes r cube, and limits r in to r out. So once again 2 pi r, 2 pi p. So we'll be, sorry, r cube by 3 now, r cube by 3. So by 3, let us take that outside. So we will be left with r outside cube minus r inside cube. Is this correct? Is this correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So now we don't know the value of pressure. We don't know the value of pressure. We know the value of weight that is acting. We need the relation of torque with the weight that is acting. Okay. So W is the weight that is acting. So now we have to find the relation between the pressure and the weight. We have to find the relation between pressure and the weight. So we all know the formula for pressure, that is nothing but the force by area. So in this case, total weight divided by total area. Total weight divided by total area. So what is the total weight? Total weight is W. And what is the total area? Now here be careful. Fine. Here we need to be careful. So the total area that we are talking about here, that's this is the total area. Okay. This is the total area that we are talking about. So can we use the same method that we used for dA? Can we use the same method that we used for dA?
Yes.
No, we cannot use it. We cannot use it. Why did we use this method here? Because the thickness was very small. The thickness dr is very small, and hence we just took the circumference and multiplied with the thickness. But for these circles, the thickness is not not ignorable. The thickness is not ignorable, so we cannot use that formula for circumference. Fine. So we'll have to use the difference in the areas. We have to use the difference in the areas. So area of larger circle minus area of smaller circle. Okay, this is how we have to use it. So this is the formula for pressure. This is the formula for pressure. So let me call this equation 1, equation 2. So substitute equation 2 in equation 1. So we get the torque formula as pi into 2 by 3, and okay, sorry, p is what we have to remove, right? So in place of p, we'll have to substitute. In place of p, let us substitute. So wherever p was there, let us substitute this whole thing. That is w divided by pi. Let us take it common. R out square minus R in square, and this term as it is. That is R out cube minus R in cube. Okay. So pi will cancel out. Pi will cancel out, and we can simplify this into like this. So mu into w into 2 by 3 times R out cube minus R in cube by R out square minus R in square. Okay. So this we can further simplify into an equation like this. What is R mean? R mean value is equal to this value,
R
2 by 3 R out cube minus R in cube by R out square minus R in square. Fine. So this is the value of R mean, and this is for uniform. What is uniform here? Uniform pressure. This is for uniform pressure. Okay. So this is the formula. So whenever you come across problems on the collar bearings, whenever you come across formula for collar bearings, and if in the question is mentioning the pressure is uniform, then you can apply this method. Okay, you can apply this method. Now the same derivation we can do in another way. Now the pressure, most of the times it will not be constant, it will not be uniform in some cases. Fine. So what, instead of pressure, the wear will be uniform. What will be uniform? Uniform wear. Uniform wear. Okay. What is wear? You know, you already know what is wear. What is wear, ma? Wear and tear. So uniform wear. So in uniform wear, pressure is not constant. Pressure is not constant. So actually R into P is constant. What is constant? R into P is constant. Fine. So assuming this, when we assume it like this, the derivation is going to be slightly different. The derivation is going to be slightly different. So first of all, let's find the relation for P. First of all, let's find the relation for P. So, okay, let's first come up with dn. We already have calculated here dn. That's equal to this constant. Yeah, okay. Let's proceed the same way actually. We'll take that up later. Fine. So again, so the same thing will come here. So dA 2 pi r dr, normal reaction, that's P into dA, that's P into 2 pi r dr. Then the force mu into dn, so mu into P into 2 pi r dr, and the torque is going to be what is that, df into r, right? So mu into P into 2 pi r dr into r. Okay, so now we'll again have to find the total torque. Fine, total torque. So when we are finding the total torque, this is where we will come across a major hurdle. Now P is not constant, so we cannot just take it outside the integration sign. Fine. So we'll have to make some assumption here. So we'll have to assume that constant is equal to K, and P will be equal to that constant divided by R. Okay, Vishnu, Darwaja. Okay, so give me a minute. Okay, sorry for the disturbance. So the total torque here is going to be slightly different. Fine. So we'll have to substitute this formula over here. So what happens there? We get mu. We get something by as K by R into 2 pi R into dr into R on once again into R, right? So this R will cancel with this R, fine. And we have a slightly more simpler equation here, mu into K into 2 pi R dr. Okay, so now this is the equation which we'll have to integrate. So let's take all the constant terms outside. Mu is constant, K is constant, 2 pi is constant, and inside the integration we are left with R dr. Once again, R in and R out, those are the limits. So let's integrate that. So we'll be left with R square by 2 limits R in, R out. Substitute them. So R out square minus R in square by 2. Fine. So this is the formula for the total torque. This is the formula for total torque. Even 2 will get cancelled over here. So now we'll have to find the relation for K. We have to find the relation for K. Fine. To find the relation for K, we'll have to find the formula for W. So what is W? W is the total weight, right? So in this case, because P was uniform, in the left side, P was uniform, and hence we directly took it as weight by area. But here, P is not uniform. It is changing from point to point. So we cannot just directly take it with this formula. Okay. So we'll have to integrate the normal reaction. We will have to integrate the normal reaction to get the total weight. So, and normal reaction, we know the formula here. So let us substitute here. And that is P into 2 pi R into dr. Fine. And radius is changing from R into R out. So once again, P is not constant here. So we cannot just directly take it out. So we'll have to substitute that formula here. So R into R out. So in place of P, we'll have to write K by R, 2 pi R dr. So R and R will cancel here. And now what are the constants? K is constant, 2 pi is constant, and inside the integration, we are just left with dr. Okay, so it will be K into 2 pi into R out minus R in. Fine. So this gives us the formula for K. So K will be equal to W divided by 2 pi R out minus R in. Okay, so this value of K we'll have to substitute in the formula that we got here. So let me call this as equation 1, equation 2. Okay, so now I'll substitute 2 in 1. So the total torque here will be equal to mu into pi, and where K is there, we have to substitute this W by 2 pi R out minus R in, and multiplied with R out square minus R in square. So pi will cancel. Can we simplify this further? A square minus B square can be expanded as A plus B into A minus B. A minus B will cancel, and we are left with this. R out minus R in by 2. So once again, this formula can be reduced to the similar format that we got before, that is mu into W into R mean. And here R mean value is slightly different. R mean value is, okay, sorry, minus will cancel and plus will remain. So this is the formula. So when should we use this formula? This formula should be used for uniform wear. This formula should be used for uniform wear. Okay, uniform wear. So both these formulae we can just combine it into a single formula. Both these formulae we can just combine into a single formula. Fine. So the single formula is mu into W into R mean. Fine. So R mean value is different for different cases. Fine. So for uniform pressure, R mean value we'll have to take it as, okay, uniform pressure is complicated, 2 by 3 R out cube minus R in cube by R out square minus R in square. Okay. This is the value of R mean for uniform pressure. And for uniform wear, R mean value is just the average, R in plus R out by 2, right? So this formula, if you remember, you will be easily able to solve this problem. Fine. So take this down. I'll give you 5 minutes for taking this down. If you have any doubts, you can ask. In exam, you may get a derivation for this. They will just ask you to derive a formula for the relation between torque and weight for a collar bearing. And either they will ask you for uniform pressure or uniform wear. One of them they will ask you. Fine. So whatever they ask, depending on how they ask, you may have to solve it. Okay.
Sir, I didn't understand the relation you took for uniform where RP equal to constant.
So that is what we have to assume whenever wear is constant. Fine. So what happens here is R and P. So there, what happens? Nearer to the center, the pressure will be more. When R is low, pressure is high. When R is more, pressure is low. Fine. So we can say that pressure is inversely proportional to the radial distance of the strip. Pressure is inversely proportional to the radial distance of the strip. Fine. When this is the case, then wear will happen uniformly. Fine. Wear
Yes,
will
sir.
happen uniformly. Okay. So I have shared a screenshot of today's board in your WhatsApp group. If you are unable to write down within the class, you can write it down later. And please practice it once. Fine. Because this uniform pressure and uniform wear, they are slightly confusing. So I want you to practice this so you will be able to understand it perfectly.
Yes, sir.
Yes, ma. Over. Yeah, the time for the class is over. So those who are done writing it down can leave. And if you are having any doubts, you can stay back and ask your doubts.
Thank you, sir.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.